So we're here in the backyard studio of Cheap Joe's with an extraordinary local, almost local artist,
yeah.
Susan Crouch. And Susan is just finishing up the third week. She's done 3 workshops at Cheap Joe's. All 3 are filled. And from what I'm hearing, most of your students were saying it's just what they need. And the second thing I can say is Susan is probably the most organized artist I have ever seen in my life. And if you're thinking about, in a couple of years maybe, taking a class from Susan or getting on her website, it's extraordinary what you're doing. And you know, to have 25 people. You had a hug fest at the,
we did have a hug
end.
Fest.
Cake and ice cream and a hug fest.
It was a sweet group. It really was a wonderful group.
So I guess that kind of gets us into one of our questions is, you come into a workshop situation, you've got 25 students who have paid good money to take your class. What is your technique and what do you want them to leave with? What's your goal for that week? Those people are with you. I know you kept them really busy. So what's your MO kind of?
Well, I am aware that a lot of them have come from quite a distance and they've put out some money to be here.
Right.
And I want to honor that by giving them what I can, the best that I can. I think probably 3 big areas that I think about in preparing for and teaching is I want them to come away with a better understanding of how they can incorporate good design principles into their own work when they get back home, composition. So I want them to understand that. I want them to have some good experience working with techniques.
Right.
And we do that by painting a painting together, going step by step. So they get a lot of technique and color mixing practice doing that. And then the third thing is something we do at the end of each workshop day. We take about 15 to 20 minutes to talk about the creative process. What are some things that you can do to cultivate it in your life as an artist, and what are some of the things that get in the way?
So you kind of invite them into the process. It's not just you always being the teacher.
Oh, no, we learn from each other all along the way.
So, I mean, somebody can look at this in the background here, the photo reference, the prep sketch, the value sketch, the color swatches, and then that's one of your signature pieces, the bird.
The bird, because I do love painting birds.
You love painting birds, and that's your DVD is, what's it called?
Carolina Morning.
Carolina Morning, and it's the bird, right?
Well, it's wrens, just like the one we got finished doing.
Okay.
But this is not the DVD.
That's not the DVD.
That's a different thing.
So here's the wren rendering.
The wren. Oh, the step by step.
The step by step, and it's kind of like that's why I say I've never seen. It's like step by step, even though they're doing what you've already done.
Right.
They're learning to do stuff, learning to do composition, color mixing, prep sketches, value sketches, the whole enchilada, really.
Right.
And you've got it figured out for them so they don't have to.
Well,
they can just enjoy painting.
They can enjoy painting, but I want them to understand not just how to make a wren painting.
Right.
I want them to understand in each step why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
Why are we making the color choices that we make? Why are the values what they are?
Right.
So we talk about the reason behind the things that we do throughout the painting. And I think that's what they can take home to their own work.
Because you don't want them to just start painting birds and flowers, but
only if that's what they
only if that's what they want.
Sure.
And you had all ladies, and the group seemed to gel pretty well.
They did. They were a fun group. They had a lot of a lot of laughs together, and just I think they were real supportive and encouraging of each other.
One thing I did notice, and I probably noticed it before and just never thought about it, is that part of artists need affirmation.
Oh, yes.
And so
Oh, yes.
it's like I saw them day after day, hour after hour, coming to you to get something, to get, hey, you're doing a good job, or hey, I mean, that's a part of it, I guess, being a life coach almost, to be, and I've never seen that part of instructing.
Of the encouraging.
The encouraging, the affirmation, the...
Yeah, I think that probably is a part of a lot of workshop instructors' goal, is because we do need encouragement.
Right.
We need to know when we're doing something right, and we need help to correct when we need to make adjustments. But I think that making art it's a brave sort of thing to do, because you're putting your heart out
Right.
there, and you're pulling from your creativity, and it takes some courage. You need encouragement to do that consistently.
And I can say this, that you've given it all away this week.
It was all left on the floor, that's for sure.
I mean, it's, for those of you that haven't taken a workshop, it's kind of like Susan is involved with every step of every person's. You got 25 people, and to put yourself out for 25 people for 4.5 days, that's a big job.
It's intense, but it's part of what you know is going to be involved, and that's okay.
So a question I told you we'd ask is, when did you discover that you were an artist?
I think it takes a long time for people who paint to want to claim that
Okay.
title as artist. And I don't know when I felt like I was an artist. Maybe when I started actually, and I'm not saying that this is what makes you an artist, but maybe I felt more into that role when I was doing it and selling at outdoor art shows.
Okay.
That felt like a little bit more of a validation. But I don't think that you have to sell your work to feel that you're an artist.
And that is a lot of work, doing outdoor art shows.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. But there were a lot of good benefits, because that was where I first was approached with the idea, well, do you teach workshops? And for several years during the doing the outdoor art circuit, people would ask that, and I would say, well, no, I do outdoor art shows. And then finally it just came to the point where I thought, well, maybe that would be something to consider. But that was where the seed happened, was at the outdoor art show.
Okay. So how long have you been doing this?
Painting and
Painting
watercolor.
and doing instructing.
Well, let's see. Painting and watercolor, 25 plus years. Teaching coming up on 10 years.
And you've been able to balance the teaching and the painting?
I'll be honest, I'm not real good at that, because
Okay.
when I'm in preparation for a workshop mode, that really is, I'm really giving that a lot of attention, and that's something I would like to do better, is to be more balanced in preparing for teaching and a personal painting.
Okay.
That's something I aspire to do.
Which, ironically, leads us into the next question, which is, what is in the future for Susan Crouch? What's the next step of your journey?
The next step, well, immediate next step is I am planning to take some time off from teaching to fill my creative well,
Okay.
and see about just tending to that for a little while. Will I be back to teaching? I fully expect that. And for people who are interested in knowing when I will be and where I will be teaching again, if you're on my newsletter list, that's the best place to find out. And you can sign up for my newsletter on my website homepage. There's a button at the bottom. But so through newsletter, through website, that's when you'll find out about the next places. But for the next season, I'm going to tend to that creative side because that's what feeds the teaching.
Right.
And that's what's necessary.
And I think we talked about that earlier. It's like that thing in Ecclesiastes where it says, to everything there's a season.
Yeah.
And there is a season to fill up your lamp.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've been a bright lamp for a lot of people for a few years, and now you're going to take some time and let your lamp fill itself back up so that you can do whatever it is you end up doing.
Well, and the tricky thing about that is, there are, everybody's different in what they need, and some people can just teach for year after year after year, and at the same time be doing what they need to do to keep their creative side fresh. And I'm trying to listen to what's going on with me. And I know that this is a season where I need to step back and tend to that so that I can come back and have more to give. And I look forward to doing that.
Yeah, when I talked to Robert Burridge last year, we were sitting in the same place. He loves to paint. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not necessarily to him while he's painting, he's not necessarily cognizant of making art. Mm-hmm. Every morning he gets up and he does his 4 to 6 panels, and his warm-up stuff. Mm-hmm. Get the brush wet and start doing it, and in that process he begins to see places that he might want to go. Mm-hmm. But he kind of lives to paint. So it's not live to make art, but he just enjoys the act of.
It's the process.
The process.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because if it's all about the end product, that does take you to burnout pretty quickly.
Right.
If you fall in love with the process, that is something that just will continue to draw you.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is, in one sense, that's a biblical concept too. You can't give what you haven't got.
True.
If you don't have, if your tanks are not full, you're not going to be able to go very far. So I know that there's lots of stories about people looking for affirmation from people, and they're not getting it because those people may not have it to give, because maybe they didn't get it. And I think art and music, there's always that sense of insecurity. Am I good enough? Or am I...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see it all the time.
Yeah, it's just, there is that. And somehow, collectively, we haven't been raised to kind of say, you did a good job today, even though it might have been a mess.
Yeah.
We're not raised that way, it doesn't seem to. We want somebody else to tell us that we're doing all right. Mm-hmm. Whereas that part of us that kind of, like you said, it's not the destination, which I've arrived.
Mm-hmm. It's the journey. It's the
journey.
process. And that sounds, trite, but it's true.
It is true.
It's about process, and it's about loving your process.
Right. So I guess we'll get your newsletter. You have a website, is it?
SusanCrouch.com.
SusanCrouch.com, CROUCH. Everybody can spell Susan.com. And you can sign up for your newsletter, right?
Okay.
So kind of keep in touch with Susan. I'm going to try to talk Susan into doing an article for the Palette magazine.
I'll be glad to do that.
And we'll keep in touch.
Right.
Even though I want to respect your very. Here we're at the end of 4.5 days, and you're willing to sit down for 15 minutes with me to talk about stuff so that we can put this out there and people can get to know you a little bit better. And I think that's, your students at the end of the week, they didn't want to let you go. They go, Wow, yeah, I mean, I've never seen them hang around that long. Mostly when 12 o'clock comes, they're ready to get on to wherever they came from, you know. So last question, any kind of encouragement for, I guess one of the questions I was going to ask is, have you ever had a low period
Oh, yeah.
where you
Oh, yeah.
felt like, and how did you get out of it?
Yeah, and I think probably many, if not most, artists go through that. And sometimes it's hard to find your way out of it. But I think part of it has to do with letting go of the focus on end product, expectations, and go back to that love of the process. What drew you into the watercolor journey, your art journey to begin with? What makes you curious?
Right.
And when I let myself entertain that question, what am I curious about, and not think about how's it going to turn out, but what am I curious about, and follow the process through that curiosity, that tends to fan that flame again. But yeah, I think most people go through that. Doesn't mean you're broke.
Right.
There's a way out of that. Yeah.
So I guess in ending.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Let me say one more thing about that, because this is something we talked about in the workshop. What do you do when you feel like you are hitting up against a creative wall? And what is helpful to remember is that it's part of the human experience to be creative. We're wired for this, and it's not that you have it or you don't. It's just that you use it or you don't. So it's encouraging as artists to remind ourselves that it's part of who we are, part of how God made us to be creative in His image. And that encourages me to realize if I am in a stuck spot, it's not because creativity is gone. There's a way through that. The creativity is still there.
So the U2, was it U2? I guess that's the name of the group, right? They had a song called I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. So I guess it's our collective hope right now that you would find in the next season what you're looking for, fan that flame again, and come back to us and come back to your whatever. I mean,
and the looking for part is really just a stepping back and a tending to my creative well, tending to that process.
And sometimes we don't know what we need until we get real quiet.
That's right.
It's like you don't appreciate eating until you fast for a few days. You don't appreciate the rain unless you've had 30 days of 90 degrees. I mean, you come from a place, it's 90 degrees or 100 down there in Statesville. So
don't remind me. I'm heading that way.
Heading that way, and it's very humid. And so, Susan, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
And good fortune.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking your time to do that.
My joy.